The oncologist's office smelled like antiseptic and something else. Fear, maybe, or resignation. Dr. Patricia Huang sat across from me with my chart open on her desk, and I watched her face carefully as she prepared to deliver news I already knew was bad. You don't get called back for a third biopsy and additional imaging unless the first two revealed something terrible. Mrs. Morrison, I'm very sorry. The results show stage 4 non-Hodgkin lymphoma. It's aggressive. It's already in your lymph nodes, spleen, and bone marrow. Stage 4. The words should have hit like a physical blow, but instead they just settled over me like a weight I'd been expecting. I was 43 years old. I taught biology at Franklin High School in Eugene, Oregon. I had a husband named David, 3 children, Sophie, who was 15, Marcus, who was 12, and little Lily, who was 8. I had a mother who was 76 and still sharp as a tack. I had students who needed me. I had a life that was supposed to continue in predictable ways for at least another 40 years. What's the prognosis? I asked. My voice was steady. Teacher voice. The voice I used when explaining cellular mitosis or the Krebs cycle, calm and authoritative even when discussing complex things. Dr. Huang hesitated. Without treatment, 6 to 8 months. With aggressive chemotherapy, we can extend that, possibly 18 months to 2 years. There are clinical trials we can explore. But Helen, I need to be honest with you. Stage 4 lymphoma at this progression level, we're talking about management, not cure. 18 months, 2 years if I was lucky. I thought about Sophie, who'd just gotten her learner's permit and was counting down the days until she could drive alone. About Marcus, who was struggling with algebra but excelling at basketball, who needed me at his games. About Lily, who still crawled into bed with me some mornings and told me elaborate stories about her stuffed animals. I thought about David, my husband of 17 years, who'd already lost his father to cancer when he was 25, and had told me once, late at night, that watching someone die like that was the worst thing he'd ever experienced. And I thought about my mother, who'd raised me alone after my father left, who'd worked 2 jobs to put me through college, who'd already buried her sister and her best friend, and who sometimes said she was just holding on to see her grandchildren grow up. I made a decision in that moment, one that would define the next 10 years of my life. What do I need to do? I asked. Dr. Huang outlined the treatment plan. CHOP. Chemotherapy, a combination of 4 drugs given in cycles, every 3 weeks, 6 cycles to start, possibly more, depending on response. Scans every 3 months to monitor progression. She handed me pamphlets about support groups, dietary recommendations, what to expect during treatment. She said the word family at least a dozen times. You'll need family support. Make sure family members understand the side effects. Have a family member drive you to treatments. I nodded at everything, took the pamphlets, made the first appointment, and then I went home and told no one. David was in the kitchen when I got back, making dinner. Spaghetti, his go-to weeknight meal. The kids were scattered through the house doing homework or avoiding homework. Normal evening sounds. The dishwasher humming. Someone's music playing upstairs. The dog clicking across the hardwood floor. How was the doctor? David asked, not looking up from the sauce he was stirring. Fine, just routine blood work. Everything's normal. The lie came out smooth and easy. I'd spent 20 years teaching biology, teaching students about cellular processes and disease pathways and cancer. I knew exactly what I had. I knew exactly what was coming, and I chose to face it alone. Here's what people don't understand about lying to protect someone. It starts from love. I didn't lie because I wanted to deceive my family. I lied because I couldn't bear what the truth would do to them. David would have insisted on managing everything, would have turned into a caretaker instead of a husband, would have looked at me the way he'd looked at his father in those final months, with pity and helpless love and premature grief. My children would have spent their teenage years shadowed by my illness, would have measured their milestones against my deterioration. My mother would have tried to care for me the way she'd cared for her sister, would have exhausted herself trying to fix something unfixable. So I chose a different path. I chose to be the person they needed me to be, teacher, mother, wife, daughter, for as long as I possibly could, and I'd handle the dying part on my own time. The logistics were surprisingly manageable. Dr. Huang's practice was in Portland, 2 hours away. I told David and the school administration I'd been selected for a professional development program, meeting twice a month on Tuesdays. I'd leave at 6 a.m., make the drive, receive chemotherapy from 8 to noon, and drive home by 3. On treatment days, I'd schedule it so I arrived home just before dinner, claiming the traffic was terrible or the session ran long. The first treatment was October 15th, 2013. I sat in a recliner in the infusion center with an IV in my arm, watching poison drip into my veins while reading student essays about cellular respiration. The irony wasn't lost on me, teaching about how cells create energy while receiving drugs designed to kill the rapidly dividing cells in my body. The side effects hit 3 days later. Nausea, fatigue, a metallic taste that made food unbearable. I taught through it, came home and made dinner, helped with homework. Went through the motions of normal life while my body waged war with itself. The hair loss started during the second cycle. I'd expected it, but seeing clumps come out in the shower was still shocking. I cut it short first, told everyone I wanted a new look. Then when it continued falling out, I bought a wig that matched my natural color and texture almost perfectly. Cost $800, worth every penny. No one noticed. Or, if they did, they assumed I was just maintaining the short haircut. I lost 20 pounds over the first 3 months, told everyone I was finally taking the fitness challenge seriously, that I joined a gym during my Tuesday sessions. David was proud of me, said I looked great. I smiled and said thank you while my body consumed itself from the inside. The lying became second nature. Every scan, every blood test, every adjustment to treatment happened in a parallel life I lived on Tuesdays and some Thursdays. I created a separate email account for medical correspondence. Paid for everything with a credit card David didn't know about, one I'd opened years ago and barely used. The bills went to a P.O. box I'd rented. I kept hospital bracelets in my glove compartment, remembered to remove them before coming home. I scheduled the worst side effect days for weekends, claiming I had a migraine or stomach bug, retreating to the bedroom to suffer privately. Sophie was applying to colleges during my first year of treatment. She'd decided on pre-med, wanted to be a surgeon. I helped her write her personal statement, edit her applications, prepare for interviews, all while receiving drugs that were supposed to keep me alive long enough to see her graduate high school, maybe see her start college if I was very lucky. Marcus made the varsity basketball team in 8th grade, the youngest player on the roster. I went to every game, even the ones that fell 2 days after chemotherapy when standing for 2 hours made me so dizzy I had to grip the bleacher railing to stay upright. I cheered. I celebrated. I drove him home talking about his three-pointers and defensive plays while my body screamed for rest. Lily was in 3rd grade, still young enough to need help with everything. Homework, friend drama, bedtime routines. She'd come into my room some nights and say, "Mama, you look sad." And I'd pull her close and say, "Just tired from work, baby. I'm fine." The worst part wasn't the physical suffering. I'd prepared for that. The worst part was the isolation, the loneliness of carrying this knowledge alone. There were times I wanted desperately to tell David, to let him hold me while I cried, to share the fear and the pain and the uncertainty. But then I'd see him laughing with the kids, or talking about plans for next summer, or mentioning how his father had deteriorated, and I'd lock it down again. Keep it contained. Protect him from having to watch me die. The first scans after 3 months showed partial response. The tumors were shrinking. Dr. Huang was cautiously optimistic. "The treatment is working. This is good news, Helen, but I need to be clear. Stage 4 lymphoma doesn't typically achieve complete remission. We're managing the disease, buying time. You need to prepare yourself and prepare your family." I nodded, agreed. Went home and helped Lily with her science fair project about photosynthesis. I continued treatment for 5 years. The cancer responded, retreated, but never fully disappeared. I became intimately familiar with the geography of my disease, which lymph nodes were affected, how the markers in my blood fluctuated, what stable disease meant versus progressive disease. I learned the language of oncology, the careful optimism of doctors who dealt in months and years instead of decades. Year 2, Sophie graduated high school and started at UC Berkeley. I watched her walk across that stage and felt a triumph that had nothing to do with her achievement and everything to do with the fact that I was alive to see it. David squeezed my hand during the ceremony. "I'm so proud of her," he said, "and proud of you. You've been such an amazing mom through these years." I smiled, said thank you, died a little inside. Year 3, Marcus started high school. Lily joined the soccer team and wanted me to coach. I said yes, even though practices fell on days when I was often exhausted from treatment. I coached 8-year-old girls how to pass and defend while my bone marrow slowly recovered from chemotherapy-induced suppression. Year 4, the cancer progressed. New tumors appeared. Dr. Huang recommended switching protocols, trying a newer drug combination. This meant more frequent treatments, harsher side effects. I adjusted my schedule, told the school I'd been asked to lead additional professional development workshops. They were thrilled, gave me the flexibility I needed. The new protocol worked better than expected. By year 5, I achieved something Dr. Huang called stringent complete remission. No detectable cancer. Every scan clean. Every blood test normal. She was careful not to say cured. With stage 4 lymphoma, you're never cured, just in remission, waiting to see if it comes back. But I'd defied the 18-month prognosis. I'd made it 5 years, and I was still alive. Still teaching, still mothering, still being Helen Morrison. Biology teacher, wife, mom, daughter. Not Helen Morrison, cancer patient. I could have stopped lying then. Could have told everyone. I was sick. I underwent treatment in secret. I'm okay now. But 5 years of lying had created a structure I didn't know how to dismantle. How do you confess something like that? Surprise. I almost died but didn't tell you? The longer I waited, the harder it became. So I continued, went for scans every 3 months. Maintained the Tuesday routine even though I wasn't receiving active treatment anymore. Told everyone the professional development program had transitioned to ongoing mentorship. Kept the secret like a second skin I couldn't shed. Year 6, the cancer came back. Not as aggressively this time, but it returned. Dr. Huang's face when she showed me the scans, I'll never forget it. Sympathy mixed with resignation. I'm sorry, Helen. This is common with lymphoma. The question now is whether we treat it aggressively again or take a watch-and-wait approach. I chose aggressive treatment, a clinical trial this time, newer immunotherapy drugs. The side effects were different, inflammatory responses, joint pain, crushing fatigue. But I managed, adjusted, continued teaching, continued mothering, continued lying. Sophie was in her 3rd year at Berkeley, talking about medical school applications. Marcus was captain of the varsity basketball team. Lily was in 8th grade, thriving. David had been promoted at work, was traveling more. My mother had moved into a senior living community and seemed happy. Everyone's life was moving forward in normal, healthy ways, and I was undergoing experimental cancer treatment in secret. The immunotherapy worked. By year 7, I was back in remission. Clean scans, no detectable disease. Doctor. Huang actually used the word remarkable, said I was a medical success story, that my response to treatment was exceptional, that she wanted to write up my case for a medical journal. I said no, obviously. Years 8, 9, and 10 passed in a state of hypervigilance. Every scan, I braced for bad news. Every strange ache, every unusual fatigue. I wondered if it was the cancer returning or just normal aging. I turned 50 during year 9. David threw a surprise party. Everyone I loved in one room celebrating 5 decades of my life, and I stood there with cake and champagne thinking, I almost didn't make it to 45. The secret should have felt lighter as the years passed. Instead, it felt heavier. I'd stolen something from my family, the chance to support me, to love me through the hardest thing I'd ever faced. I'd robbed David of being the husband he'd promised to be in sickness and in health. I'd denied my children the opportunity to show up for their mother. I'd deprived my mother of caring for me the way I'd have wanted to care for her, but I still couldn't tell them. Because how do you admit you've been lying for a decade? How do you justify that choice? The secret unraveled on a Saturday in May, year 10. I'd gone for a routine scan that Friday, forgot to remove the hospital bracelet before coming home. I'd gotten good at this over the years. The bracelet always came off in the car before I walked in the door. But I'd been distracted, thinking about scan results, worrying about a student who was struggling. I came home, made dinner, went through the evening routine. The bracelet stayed on under my long-sleeve shirt. Saturday morning, I was in the kitchen making breakfast when Lily, 17 now, about to graduate high school, came up behind me to hug me. Her hand caught on something at my wrist. Mom, what's this? She pushed up my sleeve before I could stop her. Saw the hospital bracelet. Oregon Health and Sciences University. Patient, Helen Morrison. Date, 5/17/2024. The world stopped. Mom, I pulled my arm away. It's nothing, just routine blood work. Lily's face. She was too old now to accept easy lies. That's a hospital bracelet from yesterday. Why were you at the hospital? Lily, it's fine. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it? Her voice was rising. You were at a hospital yesterday. You told us you were at a professional development thing. Sophie had come down the stairs, drawn by the commotion. What's going on? Lily held up my wrist, showing her sister the bracelet. Mom was at a hospital yesterday. She lied about where she was. Sophie's face changed. She'd been pre-med for 4 years, was applying to medical schools. She understood what OHSU meant, what patient meant. Mom, what's going on? David emerged from the home office. What's all the yelling? And there it was, the moment I'd been avoiding for 10 years. All three of them staring at me, waiting for an explanation and no lie adequate enough to cover this. I need to tell you something, I said. My voice sounded strange, small. Maybe everyone should sit down. We moved to the living room. Marcus had appeared too, drawn by the tension. All 4 of them sitting on couches, looking at me standing in front of the fireplace, and I realized I had no idea how to say this. No script prepared, no careful teaching moment crafted. 10 years ago, I started, and my voice broke immediately. I tried again. 10 years ago, I was diagnosed with stage 4 non-Hodgkin lymphoma. Silence. Complete, suffocating silence. David spoke first. What? I was diagnosed in October 2013. I've been in treatment on and off for the past 10 years. The Tuesday sessions weren't professional development. They were chemotherapy, clinical trials, scans. I drove to Portland for treatment and drove back the same day. And I didn't tell any of you because... I stopped. Because why? Because I wanted to protect them? Because I was afraid? Because I couldn't bear to be seen as dying? Sophie's face had gone pale. You had cancer, stage 4 cancer, for 10 years, and you didn't tell us. I was trying to protect you. Protect us? Sophie stood up, and I'd never seen her angry like this. From what? From being there for you? From supporting you? From loving you through the hardest thing you'd ever faced? You were 15, Sophie. You were applying to colleges. You had your whole life ahead. And you didn't think I deserved to know my mother was dying? I wasn't dying. I mean, I was, but I didn't. I went into remission. I'm okay now. You're okay now? David's voice was quiet, which was somehow worse than if he'd yelled. You had cancer for 10 years, and you hid it from me, from all of us. You drove yourself to chemotherapy. You went through this alone. I couldn't. The tears came now, hot and fast. I couldn't bear what it would do to you, to watch me die. Your father, David, you told me watching him die was the worst thing. So you decided I didn't get a choice? You decided you'd spare me by lying to me for a decade? Marcus hadn't said anything, just sat there, staring, his face unreadable, and Lily was crying, quiet tears running down her face. I wanted to be your mom, I said desperately. Not the sick mom, not the dying mom, just your mom. I wanted to coach your soccer team, Lily. I wanted to go to your games, Marcus. I wanted to help you with college applications, Sophie. I wanted to be normal. But you weren't normal, Sophie said, and her voice was ice. You were sick. You were undergoing chemotherapy, and you taught us about cancer, Mom. You're a biology teacher. You taught us that cancer cells lie. They pretend to be normal cells while they're destroying the body from inside. But you're the one who was lying. You're the one pretending to be fine while secretly dying. The accusation hit harder than any diagnosis. She was right. I'd built my entire career teaching students about cellular honesty, about how cancer disrupts normal processes through deception, and I'd done the same thing to my family. I'm sorry, I whispered. I'm so sorry. David stood up, walked past me without looking at me, went outside. I heard his car start, heard him drive away. Sophie followed him moments later. Marcus retreated to his room. Only Lily remained, crying on the couch, and when I moved toward her, she flinched. Don't, she said. I can't. I need to think. She left too, went upstairs. And I stood alone in the living room of my house, surrounded by 10 years of family photos, all the moments I'd been present for, all the milestones I'd witnessed, all the memories I'd made while secretly dying, and I understood what I'd done. I hadn't protected them. I'd robbed them. I'd stolen their agency, their right to choose how to show up for someone they loved. I decided unilaterally that my way was better, that shielding them from pain was more important than sharing the burden of it, and now I'd wounded them in a way I wasn't sure could be healed. David came back 3 hours later, sat across from me at the kitchen table. His eyes were red. "I need to understand," he said. "Help me understand how you could do this." I tried to explain. The initial diagnosis, the prognosis of 18 months, the fear of becoming a burden, the desire to protect them from the trauma of watching me deteriorate. The way the lie became easier over time became a structure I didn't know how to dismantle. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, he said, "Did it ever occur to you that I would have wanted to be there? That being your husband during the worst time of your life isn't a burden, it's a privilege? That I would have driven you to every treatment, held your hand through every scan, been there for every moment of fear and pain? I couldn't ask you to do that. You didn't have to ask. That's what marriage is. That's what we promised. And you took that away from me. You decided I wasn't strong enough or worthy enough or whatever enough to handle it. That's not... It is, though. You didn't trust me. You didn't trust any of us. You thought you knew better, that your way was the only way." He was right, about all of it. The next weeks were brutal. Sophie barely spoke to me. Marcus retreated into silence. Lily oscillated between anger and grief. David was present but distant, functioning as a co-parent but not as a husband. My mother, when I finally told her, cried for hours, then didn't call me for 2 weeks. I started therapy. Should have done it years ago, but better late than never. My therapist, Dr. Matthews, a woman with infinite patience, helped me understand what I'd done and why. The control I'd sought by hiding the illness, the way I'd confused protection with love, the fundamental violation of trust that lying creates. "You have to let them be angry, Doctor." Matthews said, "You have to let them grieve not just what could have been, but what actually was. 10 years where they thought they knew you, and they didn't." The path back was slow and uncertain. Sophie eventually agreed to family therapy, which became a space where we could all say the things too painful to say otherwise. She told me she felt betrayed, that she'd spent her adolescence making memories with a mother she didn't actually know, that she'd chosen pre-med partly because of my teaching, my passion for biology, and now she didn't know if any of that was real or just performance. It was real, I told her. My love for biology was real. My love for teaching was real. My love for you was real. The only thing that wasn't real was the image of health. Everything else, everything I did as your mom, that was completely real. Marcus was harder to reach. He internalized everything, kept his pain locked inside. It took months before he finally broke one night at dinner, tears streaming down his face, saying, "I just keep thinking about all those games. You came to every single game, and I thought it was because you wanted to. But now, I don't know if it was because you thought you were dying and they might be your last chances to watch me play. And that changes it, Mom. That changes all of it." "I came because I wanted to," I said. Yes, I was aware every moment might be my last. But that didn't make me love you less or make those memories less genuine. It made me present. It made me grateful. You were never an obligation, Marcus. You were the reason I fought so hard to stay alive. Lily was the one who forgave first. Or not forgave. That's too simple. But she was the one who reached toward me first. Started small, accepting a hug, having coffee together, talking about school. One day she said, "I'm still angry, but I also understand. You did a stupid, hurtful thing for a reason you thought was right, and you're my mom, and I love you, so we figure it out." David took longest. We separated for 3 months. Not divorce, but space. He needed time to process, to decide if he could rebuild trust with someone who'd hidden something this massive. We did couples therapy. We talked. We grieved together for the partnership we'd lost when I decided to face cancer alone. One night, 6 months after the revelation, he said, "I keep wondering what would have happened if you died, if the treatment hadn't worked. Would you have told us then? Would you have let us know before the end?" "I don't know," I admitted. "I'd like to think yes, but honestly, I don't know. I was so committed to the lie by then." "That's what scares me most. Not that you were sick, but that you were capable of dying without giving us a chance to say goodbye, that you'd have taken that from us. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." "I know you are, but sorry doesn't erase what happened." Sorry doesn't give me back those 10 years of being your actual partner instead of someone you were performing health for. I know. We found our way back slowly. Not to what we were. That was gone, broken by my choice to hide. But to something new, more fragile, more honest, a relationship where I had to rebuild trust one day at a time, where he had to choose daily to try again, to believe I wouldn't hide something this fundamental again. I'm 53 now, 4 years past the revelation, still in remission. My last scan was clean. Dr. Huang is cautiously optimistic. I'll remain cancer-free, though she's careful never to say I'm cured. Once you've had stage 4 lymphoma, you live in a state of permanent vigilance. Sophie graduated from Berkeley and got into medical school at UCSF. We're rebuilding our relationship. It's different now. She asks me direct questions about my health, demands honesty, gets angry when she thinks I'm minimizing symptoms. She's going into oncology. Says she wants to help patients who are afraid to tell their families, wants to create systems of support that make lying unnecessary. Marcus is in college now, playing basketball, studying engineering. He's warmer with me than he was, but there's still a guardedness, a space between us that might always be there. We're working on it. Lily is in college too, studying psychology, wants to be a therapist. She says watching our family fall apart and slowly piece itself back together taught her more about human behavior than any textbook could. She's the one who still calls most often, who checks in, who's forgiven most completely. David and I are still together, still married, but it's a marriage built on rubble, on the remains of what we were. Some days it feels strong. Some days it feels like we're both just going through motions, staying together because splitting up would be admitting total failure. Our therapist says that's normal, that rebuilding trust after a betrayal, this fundamental, takes years, possibly decades. We're trying. My mother and I talk regularly now. She's forgiven me, I think, though she sometimes says things like, "I wish I could have been there for you," in a tone that carries all her accumulated hurt. She's 86. I'm grateful every day I'm alive to know her at this age. I still teach biology at Franklin High. My students don't know my story. It's not appropriate to share, but I teach differently now. When we cover cancer, I talk more about the human side, about how illness affects families, about the importance of communication and trust, about how keeping secrets, even with good intentions, creates isolation. Last week, a student asked me why I teach with such passion, such intensity, and I thought about lying, giving some polite answer about loving science. But I'm trying to be more honest now, even when it's uncomfortable. Because I almost didn't get to do this anymore, I said. And that taught me not to take any day for granted. She looked confused but nodded, and I went back to explaining cellular mitosis, the way cells divide and replicate, the way life continues at the microscopic level, even when everything else feels like it's falling apart. I don't know if I made the right choice. I survived, defied a terminal diagnosis, lived years beyond what anyone expected. And I was present for my family in ways I couldn't have been if I'd been drowning in their pity and fear. I coached Lily's soccer team. I went to Marcus's games. I helped Sophie with college applications. I was their mother, not their patient, but I also stole something irreplaceable. I took away their right to love me through the hardest thing I ever faced. I denied them the opportunity to show up, to be strong, to support me the way they would have wanted to. I made a unilateral decision about what was best for everyone, and in doing so, I broke something fundamental about our family trust. Dr. Matthews asked me once if I'd do it differently, knowing what I know now. I don't know, I said. The lying was wrong. Objectively, ethically, it was wrong. But I also don't know if I'd have survived if I'd been carrying their grief on top of my own, if I'd had to manage their fear while fighting for my life. The lying gave me something I needed, the space to be sick without being defined by sickness. But it cost them something they needed, the chance to be there. So what have you learned? That protection and love aren't the same thing, that you can hurt people you're trying to save, that secrets, even ones born from love, create distance, and that some mistakes are so big you spend the rest of your life making amends for them. I'm trying to make amends now, being radically honest even when it's uncomfortable, letting my family see me, not just the strong, capable version, but the scared, flawed, human version, accepting help even when I don't want to need it, apologizing even when it doesn't fix anything, and trying to forgive myself, which is somehow harder than earning their forgiveness. I hid my cancer for 10 years. I underwent chemotherapy in secret, drove to appointments alone, faced the possibility of death without telling anyone I loved. I did it because I thought it was the right thing to do. I was wrong, but I'm still here, against all odds, against terminal diagnosis, against 18-month prognosis. I'm still here, and I have to figure out how to live with both truths, that I survived something extraordinary and that I survived it in a way that hurt the people who love me most. My name is Helen Morrison. I teach biology. I'm a mother, a wife, a daughter. I'm a cancer survivor, and I'm a liar who's trying to learn how to be honest, even when honesty is the hardest thing I've ever done. Some days I wake up and my first thought is gratitude. I'm alive. I made it. I defied death. Other days I wake up and my first thought is regret. I should have told them. I should have let them in. I should have trusted them with the truth. Both thoughts are true, and I'm learning to live with that complexity, that moral ambiguity, that space where good intentions and terrible choices coexist. I'm learning that being alive isn't just about your heart beating and your cells dividing. It's about being known, being seen, being vulnerable enough to let people love you at your worst, not just your best. I denied my family that for 10 years, and now I'm giving it to them. All the messy, difficult, uncomfortable honesty I should have given them from the beginning. It's not enough. It might never be enough, but it's what I have. It's what I can offer. And I'm hoping, against all the damage I've done, against all the trust I've broken, that it will be enough to rebuild something real. If you've ever kept a secret to protect someone you love, or if you've been on the receiving end of a lie that was meant to shield you, I'd love to hear your story. Sometimes the most complicated choices we make are the ones born from love. Drop a comment if this resonated. And if you'd like more stories about the messy, imperfect ways we navigate illness, family, and trust, a like or subscribe would mean a lot. Thank you for reading and for understanding that some mistakes can't be undone, only lived with and learned from.